saying,
For real
thank you,
though.
ladies and gentlemen, for coming to another episode of Everyday Black Man Podcast, a podcast for authentic black male thoughts. You have your boy Riker, Reed, Sham, White Collar Shug. Follow us on Twitter, and we also have a special guest. His name is Antonio Michael. He has a lot of things that he's going to tell y'all about in just a moment here. Follow us on Twitter, EVYD Black Men, Instagram Everyday Black Men, Everyday Black Men Facebook page. We did not get canceled for Charlie Kirk. And lastly, our website is www.everydayblackmen.com. We have a Patreon, EBMP. Definitely check it out. But our special guest today is Antonio Michael, and we didn't have any conversations that we would need to consult lawyers about before all this. But Antonio, tell us more. Antonio Michael, again, like a pimp named Slickback. Tell
Yeah,
us
that's right.
more
Say the
about
whole
you
thing
and
every
kind of
time.
what brings you to the podcast.
No. Um,
First name. Is the middle name a first
yeah,
name too?
No, it's an invisible hyphen. Invisible hyphen.
Hold on. Do we call you Antonio Miguel?
No, he did not say that. But nice
Oh,
try.
I was trying to be racist. Sorry, cool.
You were trying to be racist because you're trying to use your Hispanic privilege card right now, huh? We knew you were gonna switch to the other side. We
Did he
knew it.
just pull a Carmelo?
It
I'm
goes
only
in
here to
her. It does
cause.
not come back to you.
I'm only here to cause any trouble that'll have nothing to do with Charlie Kirk.
Yo, it's Antonio Michael Downing. Well, two things I do. I just released a book on Simon and Schuster called Black Cherokee. It's about a black girl growing up both black and Cherokee, and of course, you know what happens. The black people say you a little too Cherokee. The Cherokee people say, why your hair so curly? And she's got to grow up and come of age, figuring it out, being rejected by both communities. So that just came out. So I'm doing a book tour. But also, I'm in Canada. I host a national radio show called The Next Chapter and a podcast where I talk about books. Essentially, I interview authors, athletes, music stars, just talking about how they read, what books they love, whatnot. So that's what I do, but I just want to chop it up with y'all. I got some things we could talk about, but what do y'all want to talk about? What's that?
Shoot. Nah,
Can people
good.
differentiate you between Drake?
They
Can they
better.
differentiate
They
you from
better.
Drake since you in Canada?
He
He
is
is
not
the
Drake.
man, right?
Allegedly.
No, he is not Drake. This is not a long con to get Drake on the podcast
Have you
to
been to
talk with
Canada?
Sham.
Have you been to Canada? You don't know. Drake can be many of black people that we don't know.
Sir, we've had many guests here from Canada on the podcast. He is following a long line of Canadian guests that are not Drake.
I love this the Afro omnipresence of Drake
They
as
say
all Canadian black men. Oh Lord.
Yes.
we don't necessarily consider him black.
See, again, you're continuing to feed into the legend of Drake. Like this
Father.
is how it starts.
I mean, to be
I
fair,
don't
he
know if
said
you
he didn't
heard.
consider himself black, but you know.
Yeah.
Donald Glover gave us the information, man.
I think we talked about that. Yeah, never mind.
Move on.
Now the Donald Glover thing we did talk about,
No.
but
With the,
oh, now he's going Kodak Black. But when you see him, he's white.
And a lot
So
of highways have real bad signal.
they do. But Antonio Michael, you just wrote a book. Tell us more about the writing process. Like, how did you come up with this? Because
Yeah,
this
but
idea did not become a book. Like, you had to tease everything out.
dog. I am old school with it. I'm old school with it.
And how much did ChatGPT intervene?
No, even more old school. I fountain
Typewriter?
pen and paper. That's how I do my first draft.
Oh man, you write a Declaration of Independence from Canada?
hold on, wait.
What's that?
Did you have to stop too?
Yeah, no. You know what?
What's
I got a box of cigars. Them Cubans that y'all can't get. I got a box of those Cohibas, and I got and I got some great scotch.
Rub it in.
And anytime I get a check for my writing, I crack a cigar. I drink that scotch. But not. It's not an everyday thing. But you got my brand exactly.
See, you almost outed yourself as being Drake again, but Drake drinks women foo-foo
Nah.
drinks, so I'm gonna let you go this time.
Nah.
Don't mind him. He's our local
Drake hater.
Want to be Drake hater?
Yo, the reason my first name is Spanish is because I was born in Caracas, Venezuela, my friend. So I'm a Trinidadian boy. That's the deal.
Ah.
How do y'all feel
Okay.
about Nicki Minaj and her
What?
family raping villages?
What?
What?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
Yeah,
mean,
her
Collectively,
family.
everybody here is like, bro,
Is it
where were you going with
I'm
this?
not curious. I want to say transition.
Nicki
Well,
Minaj and
I'm
her
not.
family and how they
I'm not
terrorized the
familiar.
island of Trinity?
That's the thing.
I don't know. Cardi B said it. I thought everything she tweeted was real.
Fr-
Oh, so you
From
believe a
Cardi
tweet?
B.
Jesus, it's not even a tweet anymore. It's an X.
I I mean I hate them both, but I hate
Yeah. Well,
one more than the other, so I'm gonna believe the one I hate the
I
least.
was just in Trinidad like in May, and
Yeah,
yeah,
like a
never
half
heard
stuffed
about
maggot.
that.
Sorry, go ahead.
All right, my last
How is
question: Is
Trinidad
Will
this time of
Smith
year?
hanging out with your family?
The disrespect. He is a guest. He is here of his own
He
volition.
he said it. Will said it in his book. He randomly takes
Wow, for
bags of
real?
money to leave his family and hang out with random people in Trinidad.
Yeah, but doesn't mean that they were there in the same time. Like again, he said he was in Canada sometimes. Doesn't mean that they
Again,
was
I'm
the
only here
same
to
time.
deflect. These questions are protecting us from the feds. All right, man. I'm doing this for us.
No, they're doing this for your FBI agent.
All right.
All right. I mean, you got
I
it. But all
love
right,
it.
now I'm gonna let the guests talk. I'm fucking around.
So writing process, yeah, I write with pen and paper, and I'm old school, so no Chat GPT, none of that with me. I'm like, I take it serious, and yeah, how the idea came, I don't know, man. A lot of writers will say, "Oh, I intended to do this, that, and this," but I think most human beings make decisions intuitively, and then they use their religion or their point of view to validate it after the fact. So for me, I'll tell you, it came as an inspiration. I was in the South a lot. I used to work for BlackBerry back in the day. Shout out to the OG. I was in the South a lot, and the character of this mixed girl came to me, and I could see her grandmother, and the place they lived, and it just came to me all as one thing. And then the rest was me just kind of figuring out what was this vision I got. It was an interaction between conscious and subconscious, not just like, man, here's what I want to do and plot it out and just do it, because I don't think it works like that, to be honest.
How closely, or you say it came as like a vision, but how much of it, as far as the story, had some, I won't say foundation, but maybe a root in something you had personal experience?
Well, number one, the landscape, just because I was spending a lot of time in the Carolinas, Georgia, Panhandle. But number two, like, I wasn't an orphan, but I grew up with my grandma. So my mom and dad were kind of part of my upbringing, but they weren't really around. And so this girl, Ophelia, she grows up with her grandma too. So I think that's the biggest thing at that connects to my life. But also, what I would say is, because I came to Canada when I was 11, there's a lot of states of mind we can feel where we're two things, but we're neither thing. So she's Black and Cherokee, but both reject her. So she's neither, but she's both. So when I came from Trinidad in my teens, I was like, well, I don't feel Trinidadian anymore. I don't feel Canadian. I'm both, but I'm neither. And so that state of being in between while trying to figure out who you are, I think I'd have that in common as well. And the cool thing I think about it that came after is I knew that she was Afro-Indigenous, but when I dug into the history, I was shocked to realize that the indigenous tribes, like the five, what they call civilized tribes from the Southeast, so that's like the Seminole, the Choctaw, the Creek, the Chickasaw, the Cherokee, they all, like the rich people in them tribes, they all had slaves. They all had black slaves. And then those slaves kind of, traveled with them on the Trail of Tears out to Oklahoma. And then after the Civil War, Emancipation Proclamation, they were free, but they were kind of like that. They were kind of like, well, we're black, but we're also Cherokee. And to this day, to give you all the history, only one of those five tribes have accepted those black folks as full citizens of the nation. That's the Cherokee, and they did it in 2019. So just like a few, few hours ago. Yeah, that's an ongoing thing, the Black
I'll
Freedman.
say it's
And
fairly.
so when I got into that frame, that's when the story really came to life. But, so it's kind of like my situation being in between from Trinidad to here and not knowing which I am, but being both. And the Cherokee people, the Black Cherokee people, being Black and Cherokee, but not being either, but actually being both. And that's kind of the foundation for my character, Ophelia. She's both, but she's neither, and she's got to figure it out. And those they're called the Black Freedmen, and the Black Freedmen, they still figuring it out.
How much? Well, you said you were you did work in the American South, and then you came up for the latter part of your childhood or adolescent years in Canada. What are some differences you would see as far as the dynamic you went through in the Black communities in one country versus the other?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing is this, like Black people in the States are about 15% of the population, right? So you can grow up and have a complete Black experience surrounded by Black people. Um, in the Caribbean, it's even more so. Like when I grew up, the president was always Black. Attorney General, fire chief, police, everybody was Black. And so that's kind of like Caribbean Black privilege. In Canada, it's almost the opposite, where we're only like, I think 1.5% of the population here. So really, the groups are really small. For the longest while, they were mostly Caribbean, Jamaica, and Trinidad. If you're in Montreal or Quebec, there'd be more French influence, so more Haiti and etc. Um, but yeah, we were always smaller communities, right? So most of us would concentrate in places like Nova Scotia, or in Toronto, places like Scarborough or Brampton. Those are heavily Black areas, but other than that, you're pretty much a minority everywhere you go, and that's a big difference.
But y'all got a lot of land and not as much actual occupied land. Well, I should say Canada has
Yeah.
a lot of land versus the amount that's actually
Yeah, that's
populated.
true. That's true. But so almost all Canadians live within like a couple hours of the US border. Like couple hours drive of the US border along the 49 parallel. The thing is there's lots of land, it's true, but the further north you go, I mean, you don't want to see that in February.
Oh, yeah. Like, right.
Yeah, it gets Arctic and tundra, and it's like that's for the wolves and the polar bears. So that's why a lot of us just live along the border. But even still, like our country is actually bigger than America, but we have 1/10 the population that America does. That's right. That's right.
You know
We
what I'm saying? Y'all
definitely
really
are.
are top
We're
half.
like, this is for where the draft dodgers and the wannabe socialists, people that like free healthcare, y'all come to Canada. We got a spot for you.
Y'all cure bone spurs?
What's that? We cure bones.
It's just asking for a not friend.
for
Yeah, he's
well,
asking
I
for a
hear
friend real quick.
bone spurs is a qualification for high office in America, isn't it?
These days.
I mean,
Yo,
yeah,
you got
these days you got us there.
yeah, y'all.
Be careful there. We
That's
gonna get on for
The
another.
Charlie Kirk episode was last week, right?
Be careful.
oh,
I mean, look, we
All right.
had some things with Charlie. We had many things with him, but we gonna let that go. Especially now that the Black Libertarians joined. You can't have nothing about that man without this man having something to say.
Yeah, because
He's
he's
a
our
big time
resident.
supporter.
to one of the main questions. Why have Black and Indigenous people had this love-hate relationship, or as you see it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I love the history, right? As you might have already picked up. I just love digging into research, and part of writing my novel Black Cherokee, I was in touch with Tia Miles, who professor at Harvard, who's a historian of both Black and Indigenous culture, and reading her work, you kind of really get the sense that from the very beginning, Black people and Indigenous people were were friends and adversaries, right? Like you got like the Seminoles used to take runaway slaves and give them land and make them part of the tribe, but then other tribes would enslave black people, and then of course you have like the Buffalo Soldiers where they actually enlisted black soldiers to go hunt indigenous people on the west on the plain. So the short answer is because of white people. You know, yeah,
Satisfactory answer.
and because they're always playing us against each other, but also the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So that's why we're cool. But also, like I tell y'all, be real. The most allyship I've ever gotten from non-black people has been indigenous people in North America. But also the most racist things that have happened to me have been by indigenous people in North America. So I feel like there's a real kind of, like there's people trying to Uncle Tom, and the surest way to suck up to white folks and to the power structure is just take it out on somebody else who is disadvantaged. And so we've been on both sides of that, and so have they.
Yeah.
As someone with a little bit of blood on both sides, I have mixed feelings about this, but I can't say that you are in any way, shape, or form wrong. I think it's a more
Mhm.
nuanced conversation because we each have different experiences with that.
How do you feel about the people who say they claim that blacks are indigenous and not from Africa? Like, what's your take on that?
Whew. This is a hot one for me, right? Because yeah, there. So for people that don't know, there are, and Dane Calloway, who is a sort of black, um, influencer. He's sort of the biggest guy championing this. They basically claim that we're indigenous people and we've been here all along and we never came from Africa, right? And I mean, historically, it's just wrong because there's so much actual historical evidence from black people, from white people, from indigenous people going way back. And here's the other thing: most people claiming this refuse to take DNA tests, right? Because we could take a DNA test, right, and just confirm where your ancestry is from, and they refuse to do it, and that tells you everything you need to know right there. So, I'm not in the business of quoting the Bible, but I do know some scripture. And this verse, Hebrews 11:1, where it says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. What I think about that, and what I think is sometimes there's an argument, faith and evidence don't coexist. So sometimes there's an argument that's a faith argument where someone's chosen to believe something. And if you give them evidence, it's like you're going in circles. You can't get anywhere with them. I'm not trying to have an evidence argument when really it's a question of faith. And that's what's interesting to me about this. Like when you think of it as an evidence thing, I think it's nonsense. I think those people just, people are just the state. I think is partially because Africa is not associated with winning, so a lot of people don't want to be associated with Africa. Some people hate the term African American. I think also white folks have used "Go Back to Africa" as such a hateful slogan over the years that a lot of us have internalized that, and we're like, we want to hate and distance ourselves from anything African. Um, but what it is, I think, is a question of faith. I think that's what makes it interesting. It's really a new religion, a new Black American religion where people are saying, hey, we are the indigenous. We are from here. We're actually defending our homeland against white folks, against colonizers. And I think because at the heart of every religion is just a story, right? Like, Mormonism, just because Utah is in the news a lot lately and Mormonism is from there. Mormonism was just started where they said, here's the story of Mormonism. When Jesus ascended into heaven, he came to America. He didn't go up to heaven. He came to America and ministered to these indigenous tribes in America. And Joseph Smith, the founder of Mormonism, found these tablets of stone, which, by the way, no one has seen because it's in their Holy of Holies in Salt Lake City. But there's a story, right? And it's usually an unbelievable story. And nobody's going to try to convince someone who has a faith that their story is wrong, even though it's got miracles and supernatural stuff in it and stuff that doesn't make sense. And so, what I think of the folks claiming that Black people are original Indigenous Americans is evidentiary. I think it's nonsense. But as a faith, as a choice to believe in something that unifies people together, I think it's a new American religion for Black people. That's what I think.
I'm of the belief that some of these black people were here already, not that all were here already. And I think that the question that I ask you in general is, when are you no longer a part of that place anymore? Meaning that, let's say your family hasn't been associated with Africa for 500 fucking years. I mean,
Yeah, well,
when are you
you
not,
know,
when are you still African?
here's the interesting thing. Here's what I'll say to that. I'll say this. Irish people have St. Patty's Day. Most of them have never had any, they have zero association with Ireland, right? For a long time.
Not that long. They only been over here like predominantly for like 300 years. Like
For like for like 100 to 300 years, sure, right? Scottish people got the Highland Games, right?
yeah, somewhere in there.
Many people at those Highland Games have never even been to Scotland. They don't have that direct connection. So all I'm saying is there's a lot of situations where people celebrate a connection to a heritage that really they don't have a connection to. And nobody says you're less American just because you go to the Highland Games.
No. They only do that if you're black.
Yeah.
They do that.
They only do that if you're Black. Exactly. That's my point.
Black or
Yeah.
Native American.
Yeah.
That's why you said something.
Yeah,
Everybody
that's
like,
my
yeah,
point. My point
they're not treated like they're Americans either.
is we should be able to celebrate our connections no matter how distant. And
But what connection
yeah,
due to chattel slavery? That makes it kind of hard. Like people like I don't know if you've seen that PragerU thing they got going around. Slavery's been around whenever. No.
different. Yeah.
This form of
Well,
slavery is very, very
Chattel
different.
slavery
you
is
know,
different.
here's why. I tell you why
That part you know what it is.
what I get from it. So I'm reading a book called The Black Jacobins by a guy named CLR James about the revolution in Haiti. And at that time, Haiti was the richest colony in the whole freaking world. France in the year that the revolution happened had a GDP of 17 million and 11 million came from Haiti on the backs of a bunch of enslaved Africans. And those guys organized, beat the Spanish, beat the English, beat the old school French like the Kings. And then when they chopped off the king's head and Napoleon took over, he sent an army and they beat them too. And so, you know, in an age where Black people are so under attack right now in America, right? Like, you know, like they left Mein Kampf in the Naval Academy library and they took out Harriet Tubman and every reference to Black history in there. So in a time when Black people are under attack, I get strength from reading that story that connects me back to a heritage that really that's like 200 years old. You know, a lot of the things that shape the world we're in now were decided hundreds of years ago, right? Like that's why I was just in DC on my book tour for Black Cherokee, and I was like, wow, like literally you're walking in history, and what you realize is these things in the span of history and big systems in society, 100 years is no time, bro. 200 years is no time.
No, that's a lifetime. That's a lifetime and a half.
It is, but you know,
Well, depending on when you
it's a,
think time
Well, yeah, but
started.
no,
yeah,
but
it's
for
nothing.
history, it is basically not even a second.
Well,
It's nothing.
At the
yeah,
beginning,
I mean, no. Even
well,
if
at the
even if we're
beginning,
going with the biblical 6,000 years, it's still but a minute in all of human history, biblical style too, because 6,000 years is a long time. Now, I mean, this is of course assuming that we're
Yeah,
going to
but
get
I
some
think he's
sort of
really reaching at the root
That
of the
about it.
confusion of the quote unquote Black American. But why are they confused? That's the bigger argument. Why
Mhm.
are they confused? Because even the African American movie movement was frowned upon at one time, and I think it was the '60s and '70s when they really tried to start the African American thing. And then some black people were like, "Oh, what is this shit?"
because that goes into no, and I'm not going to get into that because that goes into a way longer conversation we'll need to have because
Yep,
well, you got to
yep.
remember what was going on in the '60s and the '70s. You had Panthers
Yes,
cropping
exactly.
up. You had a cultural revolution. You had people deciding that they're not just going to move to the from the south to the north, but people like just
Mm,
straight up, we Chicago, baby.
mm.
Like we full Chicago, like nothing but Chicago. Like you have all these things
I
happening.
think that's well, I think he'll end up saying it, but all the confusion amongst black people is really from chattel slavery. Like, regardless of whatever you think they believe or faith or whatever, but that's the point. There's so confusion. But the truth is, it's a little bit more because you said completely false, but at the same time, you acknowledge that there were black slaves that were with them at the same time. I was just like, well, if they were with them and then they integrated into their society, this happened over, well, I guess 400 or 500 years ago. When are you not a part of that society
Well,
anymore?
no, this I mean, okay, couple things. I mean, just how I look at history is this. I was raised by a woman born in 1898. Okay, she was my grandmother. She raised me as a kid. And so the way I look at history is like she instilled in me like 19th century values. That's real, that's history, right? So I think the amount of time matters. What we're talking about with the what we're talking about with the Trail of Tears, that's
Indigenous
like
cleaners.
1832, 1835, in between those years. So really, we're talking like, you know, 200 years ago. Sure, I think you're right. I think it does make them indigenous. But what people are arguing is we have zero connection to Africa. That's what they're arguing.
That right there, I don't agree with. I think. Oh, wait, one second. One thing I would say is, I'm asking you: do you think there were people that look black and they called them Indian? I guess that because Tariq talks about this, and I know you know him.
Sure.
The way Indians look and the way black people look are very, very similar, except for the hair. So,
That's a big exception. Yeah, like, look, it depends on what time in history you're talking about. Black people have a history
okay,
on this continent of like 500 years long. So, yeah, like if you're talking about like
I agree with that.
last the like 18th century, then yeah, by that point people have already integrated. They don't even remember Africa. They don't speak those languages. They've lost a lot of that tradition. Some people have. But then of course there were slaves who came in that same century fresh from Africa, right? And they do have a connection to it. And then you have people who from the Caribbean where there's a closer relationship with Africa, and then they come to America and they see themselves as being closer connected to Africa. So I think to reduce the history of 500 years down to, well, is we or is we not indigenous? I think it's a simplification. I think there's definitely people who, like, you got the Gilly Gucci people in the Carolinas who still kind of speak like a pseudo African language, so they're still really connected. And then you got people who are like the black freedmen who really are culturally fully indigenous. But that's not the argument these people are making. What they're saying is
okay.
we never came as slaves, that those boats never brought us here. And that seems like a kind of a fantastical, magical
I think that.
kind of thing.
Do you think the truth is somewhere in the middle, maybe somewhere? Because the thing about history, which is weird, because I mean, I hate to quote this because I don't know it directly, where there were some West Africans, is it West Africans that traveled to America before, quote unquote, Europeans traveled to America? You don't think?
Oh, you talking about when Mansa Musa went and got, I guess, lost? The richest man in the world just goes on a trip and just never comes back.
allegedly there were some West Africans that came, and maybe some of them were here. Now, the argument that all of these people came from slavery, I think, is the argument that I have a question about, because I don't think the white man's that powerful. I just don't want to give him that credit. I just don't want to give him that credit.
Well, the thing about it is we've got like sure, I like Africa is just the other side of that ocean. So could some Africans have crossed the water before? Sure, absolutely. But what we know is we don't have any strong evidence of it because if they did, there
Yeah,
probably
we do.
wasn't that many. But in the numbers that came for on the slave ships, we know that we know those numbers, and those numbers were
Do we really know those numbers?
yeah. I've not
Man, he said, "Yeah, we do." Hold
yeah.
on, wait. He said,
I
"Yeah, we
think
do."
so. I think so because straight up, like you got to understand, like no, I don't like thinking about black people as property, but the fact is, chattel slavery made us that. So when it's your property, it's your money. And so the Europeans kept exceptional records because that we were their cash, we were their money, we were their dough, we were their investment. So we know we can go to Africa and see where they left from on the west coast of Africa. There's records, there's ledgers, there's accounting. Like these guys built their whole society to do this stuff efficiently for hundreds of years. So the records are deep. You know what I mean? They're deep.
So the reason, like, I kind of just want to get back to this. When it comes to all these, what do you call them, subculture groups and all this kind of stuff, I think America does that to give us confusion on who is here or not here, because I really think it goes back to the quote unquote reparation argument in general. And I think they're saying that the Indians got reparation, but they were Indian too. And I think that's where people get like, oh, I don't know about
Yeah.
that.
Well, I mean, look, I feel like the strongest argument for we could get into the reparation discussion. I just feel like to me it's kind of like does it strengthen or weaken black people to divorce ourselves from reality just because we don't, it strengthens or weakens an argument.
I don't think they have a reality, and that's the problem.
Yeah. Well, yeah.